James Franklin has been hired by Virginia Tech. What a hire. This could easily be the best hire of the entire offseason based on the expectations of the program that is hiring James Franklin and the caliber and the quality that I believe James Franklin is as a head coach. This is a match made in heaven, in my opinion. I have been one that has been wanting to see Virginia Tech get back to the main stage, get back to the spotlight, become relevant, as some people would say, which I don't know if I love that term because relevance is based on where you look. But Virginia Tech is one of the best college football programs in history. In 2004 through 2011, they had double digit wins. I might have those dates off, but there was a decade plus where they had double digit wins consistently. 2016 being the last year that they had double digit wins as a program. This has been a program that, kind of like Nebraska, has kind of fallen to the side, could not have been able to get the right guy since Beamer was the head coach there at Virginia Tech. And we look around and they've kind of become irrelevant for better and for worse. This is a program that needed juice, needed life, needed some resemblance of hope, needed a culture. And I think that's what's been missing over the past couple of years from Virginia Tech, as well as investment into that program. In steps in James freaking Franklin. And we could talk about it time and time again about how James Franklin couldn't win the big one at Penn State. We know what his record is against top 10 opponents. I don't need to reiterate that to you. I don't need to talk about AP top 5 opponent records with James Franklin because that's relative to the expectations of what was set in front of him at Penn State. To reiterate that, we're talking national championships with Penn State. That's what their expectation is. That's why they fired the guy, because he wasn't getting them to the national championship level that they believe their program can get at. And now they're sitting and looking around and saying, well, we may have made a major mistake getting rid of a guy that, frankly, if we did not know anything about James Franklin and we did not know anything about their history with Penn State, he would be the perfect guy to hire on if he was available. If we knew nothing, it was a Men in Black, Penn blank, you knew nothing about their history and we didn't know it existed. And now Penn State is looking to try to find a guy to elevate their program from a 10-2, which not many college football programs can say they've gotten to that point. Insert Virginia Tech, a program desperate for life, a desperate for opportunity to potentially become what they once were in the early 2000s. And James Franklin is a perfect fit. I don't have anything negative to say about this. Now, we could talk about the buildup to this hire, which was relatively, I guess if you're reading the tea leaves, unique. You had a James Franklin who was kind of waiting and seeing what other opportunities might become available. Reportedly, Florida State kind of seeing if Mike Norvell, if they were going to pull the trigger there, if there was potentially some movement around Auburn. James Franklin is a coach that had many of options in what his next step would be. Was it going to be TV? Was it going to be going back to the SEC? He could do whatever he wanted, but Virginia Tech was the girl across the bar who shot her shot. She made it very clear that he and her need to go home together. And James Franklin tried to act like he had all these options. And once that ultimatum was set, the clock strikes 2, it's 2 a.m. at the bar, he made his decision. And I think one of the big things that helped bolster Virginia Tech in this job search that made them more of an enticing job was $229 million was approved by their Board of Regents to invest into athletics. James Franklin talked about it. He said that they want to act like a big program. They need to invest like a big program. I promise you, you can go find many of stories with what James Franklin had to build at Penn State to get recruits to be enticed to go to Penn State, knowing where that program was and where he got them to. That's something that I've said many of times at this channel of how impressive James Franklin and his tenure at Penn State may not be looked back at as the most glorious of times, the heyday, the golden age of Penn State football. Maybe that's still in front of us, but the progression and where he got this program was truly impressive, which makes me even more excited for what he could do at Virginia Tech. If there's nothing that James Franklin can't do, or if there's one thing, better said, that he can do across the board, it's build programs from the ground, from the ground up. Haven't done that live in a long time. It's important to note Virginia Tech was also sub 500 against conference opponents over the, I believe, past 10 years. If I remember reading it correctly, it was like 43 and 46 against conference opponents. And we go back to the original point. If anyone, and frankly, I haven't seen many people push back on this hire, but there's been many people that have said he's not going to win the big one. Well, what is the expectation for Virginia Tech? Virginia Tech wants to be relevant. They want to be in the ACC title, something that I believe they've only done once in over the past 10, 13 years. You look at Virginia Tech, and James Franklin will build this program up. He's going to have the tools and capabilities to do so. One of the most underrated home environments in the entire country. So once again, he's in one of the best spots to do that, as he is leaving the whiteout to now go to Virginia Tech at night, which I want a marquee game to be scheduled next season, because it's going to be incredible. There's a lot to like about this hire. I struggle to find more things to talk about to potentially convince myself of a red flag, a negative here. But James Franklin is a guy that is going to want to do it the right way. He is going to be one that believes that his process is one day going to put him in a position to win a national championship. And if Virginia Tech wants to get to those expectations, a team that was circling national championship contention for a long time in the 2000s, maybe we adjust it to 2025 standards with the college football playoff. If they want to get to that, James Franklin is the perfect coach to potentially put him in that position to get to that level once again. I would give this an A+ hire. Far and away, I think this is a incredibly impactful hire to the core of what Virginia Tech is and what they're going to become.